Man.
So share with us, and I'm gonna see if I can make the lights just a little bit brighter for you.
Nah, shoot, this is good. um, hey, I think I've spoken to a lot of y'all before. Um, thank y'all for having me again. And my name is Gene Mojica. I'm part of the World Baptist Mission Ministry that Miss Joanna and Mr. Sandy have started 30, 30 some years ago. It was crazy how it happened, but I've gotten saved over this few years. And one day while I was home, I just felt I knocked doors for a living, trying to like do roofing work or some type of remodeling work, and I did that for a lot of years. And one day while I was in bed, I just heard the Lord tell me, like the Spirit tell me, like, hey, like go and knock doors in church, but instead of for work at churches. And I told my wife, she was like, well, I mean, it's not the first time that that's happened when I feel led and something great happened. So I did that, and I had passed this church. I live in Williamson. And then I went to a couple of churches around here. Some of them were like, hey, man, that's nice story, and do you have a testimony written down? I said, no, sir. They were like, well, put one together, bring it back. We might be able to use it. So I went to some other ones, and they said, hey, cool testimony, but keep on knocking doors. Like, there's nothing here for you, right? So I was like, okay. And then on the way back home, I decided to pull into this church. And as I pulled into the driveway, Mr. Sandy was getting in his truck. And we met at the right time. So he pulled up to me and he said, can I help you? I was like, man, I'm just looking to see the pastor's here. The church is open. He was like, he might be in there. He's like, but is there anything I can help you with? So we got to talking. 2 hours later, I'm invited to go to Honduras. So that's how that got going. I didn't know, and I prayed about it. And the whole time it felt right. It felt right. So moved forward to our trip back in November. He asked me, hey, do you want to go with me to Honduras in November? I said, sure. He's like, well, we're going for a whole month, a whole month and 3 days to be exact. So I was like, okay. I was like, sure. I just thought if this is of the Lord, it's going to work out. So we took off, and man, I wish everybody could go down there once so y'all can actually see what this man is, Miss Joanne, because it's a team. I mean, it's me and my wife. You know, my wife had to stay home with the kids and whatnot, so it's a team. But there's so much that is going on down there. We were able to, where do I even start? First with the ministry, with the seminary. They have a seminary where we're having teachers come in and they're teaching the gospel, because a lot of people down there believe that they could get saved, but that you could lose salvation. They believe that you have to earn your salvation. Churches and spread the message. And there's two places that we're focusing on where people are coming in, and you can see that they're hungry. I tell people, I can see why the Lord is sending a lot of people to Honduras, because I've never seen a country where they're so hungry for Jesus. Everywhere I went, there's Jesus written on the mountains. There's Jesus written in the towns. There's Jesus everywhere, but they just don't have the true understanding. So that alone is worth going, you know. I hear people say all the time, it's like, well, we don't have to go out of the country to do ministry work. We could do it out here and with our neighbors. Like, yes, that's absolutely right. But just like myself, and I can only speak for myself, but like I have it in my heart where the Lord's going to use me as a vessel to go to Latin America and teach people about Jesus, because a lot of them believe in the Catholic system, which is really, Mr. Sandy is made for this. The seminary is one of the things. There's also a feeding program. Man, it is sad. It is sad that we don't really understand how blessed we truly are and how much extra we have until you go to some of these places. I had some pictures that unfortunately I didn't come here in time where I could have maybe showed y'all the pictures. I didn't take a whole bunch of pictures during my trip because I didn't want to make it look like a circus, like I was at a circus just taking pictures of all these people. But I was able to capture some. And my wife has a Facebook page. It's Amanda Mojica, Mojica, that y'all can actually probably go there and look at that post that I put in some of the pictures. But the ministry also has a feeding program, and we have some older people that unfortunately don't have anybody to take care of them. So once a month, we supply food for to take care of them. So once a month, we supply food for them. And this caravan will take the food there and the coffee, just the bare necessities, but that goes a long ways. They'll cook a little bit for themselves and then they'll go feed the person. One of this gentlemen, heartbreaking, man. Man, right here from this, where this tape is at to the edge of this right here, this square right here, maybe a little bigger, but not too much bigger, is the size of his house. Yeah, it's probably a little bigger because it's the bed, and not too much bigger, but it's just a little storage shed, and it's literally 1x6 boards put together. No insulation, no nothing. It's just a building. It's just a building in the middle of the field. This is one of the guys that the ministry takes care of every month. And when I first walked in there, this man is in his bed. He can't walk. And he's just full of bottles that he uses to pee and trash and all kinds of stuff. They said that the man didn't allow nobody to go there and help him clean out. They wanted to help him clean it out, but he wouldn't allow it. I told one of the pastors that was with us, I was like, we need to clean this. So we put it on ourselves that when I tell y'all, I've never seen roaches, and this is no exaggeration. The roaches were this big. The roaches are this big. There was feces from rats. There was spiders. And there was actually snake skin where the snakes goes in there, sheds the skin. So, and this man is just him in his little bed, which was a filthy bed. So we got him a new one. And it's just heartbreaking, man, because we truly don't understand poverty. And I'm not trying to come here and because I'm just saying we got to be grateful. Because I think a lot of the times, I speak for myself, we can go without realizing really how grateful we should be. I talked to this man, and when we first started, he was upset to a point where he was almost crying, where I started questioning myself, like, who am I to come and remove all this trash? This might be like, I don't know. He wanted this. He just, nobody ever did it. And he was just, man, it's sad. It truly is sad. And just like him, there's a lot of that going on. But the one thing the man said that he didn't need anything because he had the Lord with him. He said, so I'm good. And I was like, how many of us would really feel that way, be that grateful, not having nothing, yet we understand that this is just temporary because his home is somewhere else. And I was just like, man, so that was a testimony to me, because here I am. I should be down there with Mr. Sandy right now. Unfortunately, I can't at this moment, you know. But I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to go down there, and we're going to be able to put him into this facility that the ministry is building. We're building helping the people every month with the food program, the assisted living. We were able to put a roof while we were up there. We got the first building roofed. Hopefully we can get that assistance. This was another testimony. It's an orphanage that Mr. Sandy he's connected with this orphanage. He's known the person for a long time. This guy, he moved out there to Honduras. He wanted to go build an orphanage in Mexico, and he felt led to go to Honduras. So he went to Honduras. He started with one building. he got this property, and there was just one building in this property on top of a hill, and he said he needed running water. He had a water tank. So PBC, the plan about, said they went to, the guy went up to that little room, and he stayed working, and he said once he got done, he went to bed, and about 3 a.m., that engineer went and knocked on his door. He was like, hey, wake up. Not only are you getting water up here, that tank is overflowing with water. And now, if y'all look it up, it's called Emmanuel Orphanage in Honduras. Man, they got their own little world there. They have their own cows, pigs, you name it, they have it. And this is a guy that told me, Gene, when I first started on this, I just started with faith, and everything else I didn't know how I was gonna do it, but the Lord. The guys had like 600 orphanage like kids up there. Right now, the government's making it difficult for him, so he only has about 300. But it was pretty cool seeing some of the kids that were there when they were babies, and now they're helping take care of the orphanage. So that was a really cool experience. I was able to go see some kids feeding centers, which this one really, this one hit me really, really hard. The orphanage kids, somebody asked me, how do you feel about it? And I said, there's two ways I feel about it. One of them is, I feel like that guy just through faith, he's kind of like Abraham, Noah, everybody else that just believed. They believed, and now he's being able to help a whole bunch of these kids. I feel like that's Noah's Ark right here. That's how I feel. So it's a good thing. The other thing was I felt kind of bad for them because this kid, since they're babies, they're there. They've never had a motherly hug, or a fatherly hug. But then again, they don't really know that, so it's not like they're missing it. But the feeding center for the kids, we also were part of that. And these kids, they get to eat 3 times a week. We eat 3 times in one day. So these kids get for sure 3 meals a week. And I'm not saying they don't eat the other couple of days. I'm sure they probably do, but I know some of them don't. But I know those 3 days during the week, they have a meal. And we were able to be part of that. I went there, and it's hard because I have 2 little kids, man. And again, we don't appreciate what we have. We have too much of it when some of them don't. And it was really hard for me. That one was really hard. So I got to playing with them. We got to clean up some trash around the property. And I took them to buy some chips and a juice. All the little kids because once they see the lady that is in charge of the program, when we pull in, as soon as they see her coming in, they're running. The first few kids are running to the property. So the first handful of people, I think it was like 9 of them, they got there. The ladies and the moms come together to start making breakfast, and they started cleaning the trash. So I told them, like, nah, man, like, me and the kids will do this. So I got them little kids, and I lined them up like little soldiers on this side. I was like, that's your little road. We're going back and forth, and we're going to clean this. So we cleaned it. And we were done. They gave me permission to take them to this little homemade here when we think of a man. It's like, y'all didn't help, but I'll get y'all one or the other. We went back, played with them. And then one of the kids had a little drawing book. So he started drawing. I was like, hey, can I draw something with you? He was like, yeah. So I drew him this little superhero character. Well, by that point, I having little kids all over me, all around me. They were like, I want one too. So they said that for Christmas, that's what they wanted, a drawing. And here we are, we come home and out of LA. This mountain is about 5,000 feet up, and elevation takes you 4 or 5 hours to go from one end to the other. And y'all should see Mr. Sandy, man. That man, he can drive that thing with his eyes closed, I'm sure. Like, I really do. So everybody say, hey, y'all just got to get off that mountain before it gets dark. Guess what? It was dark and we were still coming down the mountain. So that's Mr. Sandy. Things that the water. There's a lot of water wells that Mr. Sandy has been able to facilitate the different towns, different little areas of the country. While we were there, we were part of doing a well for the fire department, and they're asking for a fire truck, and Mr. Sandy said he was going to look into it. So I wouldn't be surprised if that man he'll find one for them. But that's another thing. There's not a lot of running water. There's not a lot of electricity. And man, there's a lot that all of y'all as a church are doing by helping the ministry. And because I promise y'all, the one thing I've seen and why I think the Lord led me there is because the ministry, they use the money for what it is. And it's encourage any one of y'all that would like to go. It's a really cool experience. So I don't know. I think, like I said, I'm sure I'm missing a few things, but if y'all would like to see some of those pictures, I've never seen so many dogs, but there's a lot of dogs down there, skinny dogs. Like even the dogs, I told Mr. Sandy when I come home, I'm gonna have a serious talk with my 3 dogs because they don't understand it. Because they don't understand it. There's something wrong here, but anyways, I think that man right there, just keep him in y'all's prayer because he doesn't stop. Every morning we were at 6:30, we're drinking coffee and we're coming home once it's getting dark. There was a few days for sure that we had early days, and those days I took advantage of them and I would go to the plaza. Every town down there has a little plaza in the center of the town, and there's little vendors and people walking around and whatnot. It's totally different than what we have here. And I use those days to go and share the gospel with people. I met like 4 people that I was talking to somebody else, and they heard me talking about the gospel and they pulled up, and I think it was for me to meet them. So that it's an all day thing. It's not a vacation thing, but it feels good, man. Like I tell my wife that I don't see myself in a 9 to 5 no more because I go crazy. I feel this feels right. So when I'm home, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going out. I'm looking for homeless people. I'm looking for somebody that might need a ride, and just any opportunity that I have to share the gospel and share my testimony, how the Lord changed me, because Lord knows I tried many, many times to change on my own and I couldn't. And it wasn't until I just surrendered. And thank y'all for... Nope. I told him I would not eat Chinese food in Honduras. Not happening. a lot of times. So I think he's looking for the help. So again, I mean, y'all just keep him in y'all's prayers for sure, because he's a stubborn man, but that's what makes him Mr. Sandy. He gets things done. He gets things done. There's not very many things that become difficult for him. He knows how to move around, man. And everywhere you go, this man has done so much in that country that everywhere you go, people know him. People know him.
He's a legend, isn't he?
He's done good things there. So, and that's the thing. We don't see him here. We don't. But there's a lot of things that the ministry is done down there. I'm pretty sure everybody knows about the 8, 9 churches that he built up there, his school. There's a lot, man. And the main thing, though, is we're always talking about Jesus. We're always talking about the Lord. Everywhere we go, we're talking to people about salvation, and it's working out, man.
You have seminary there as well.
Yeah, well, we had the seminary. Right now, it's going on. And like I said, it's about 40 people in between both sites that we're having the seminary at, and it's a good thing because a lot of these guys, like I said, they know the way. They understand that it's Jesus, but a lot of them believe that you can lose salvation. A lot of them think that you have to work to get salvation, and we understand that. Man, Jesus died on the cross, for all of our sins, and if we believe in Him, you're pretty good. So, the cool thing about that is that you get this 40 pastors, and then they can go out to their churches and spread the gospel and teach the right thing, and then from there they can spread it out. So there's a lot of people being
So
taught.
multiplication
It
is
is.
issue more than just adding
Yeah.
whatever. And he is in the parking lot for a whole nother reason. And Sandy just happened to have been here and stops and sees the guy at the parking lot and goes, "Hey, do you need something?" And that strikes up a conversation to where he's practically Sandy's protege now. You're like little Sandy now.
I'll tell you.
And so for somebody to tell me that God is not at work in the world, that He got you in this parking spot and Sandy driving through the parking lot at the same time, so that you guys get there. Also, I think it's very obvious that to all of us that we can hear your heart for missions, and God calls all of us to be a missionary, but not all of us are called to Florida.
Hey, Mr. Sandy, when I passed this church, while I was knocking doors at the other churches, I could have stopped here first. He's done that many times, kind of to go with what we're talking about, that goose chase, that you don't know where you're going, but you know you're going if you're paying attention to him. I had another scenario where same thing, I'm at the house, and I'm just paying attention to the Lord, and he was like, "Hey, I need you to go out." So I told my wife, "Hey, I think the Lord's needing me to go out." This was on a Thursday, so my wife said, "Well, why don't you go out tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah, that's what I'm going to do." So when she went to pick up the kids from school that Friday, I went out. I got a 162, and then I'm just trying to feel the Spirit, and I see this hawk, right, go across, and I just felt follow. People are like, "All right, you're listening here, but pay attention." So I follow the hawk. I get to a stop sign, and the hawk is gone. I'm like, "Well, now what?" I look to the left, and there's 2 lion statues. I say, "Okay, here you go, Keys." I turn. He gets me back to 192, 162. What's that main road? 162? 362. That road. My bad. Well, so he gets me back to life. That's just a big circle for nothing. So in my mind, I'm having my mindset to go to Walmart, because if you really want to find some hurt people, you can go to Walmart parking lot. So I went to the Walmart parking lot, and I pulled in. I seen a group of younger kids, and I didn't feel anything. Then I seen an older couple, and I didn't feel anything. I was like, "Lord, what is it? Like, I don't know where you wanted me, that goose chase you talking about." So then there's a liquor store on 1941 across Walmart. I said, "I'm going to the liquor store. Somebody really hurt got to be there." So I get out into Walmart, and I'm gonna try to go to across 1941. And before I get to the light, I feel the Spirit tell me to turn left. So I said, "Okay." So I make that left, and as I'm sure you don't need a ride, man? Where are you going? He's like, I'm walking to Barnesville. I was like, man, it's like, that's a far ride. You sure you don't need a ride? So this is the second time, like, you sure you don't need a ride? He's like, no. So I opened my backpack, and I always carry my Bible. So I opened my backpack, and I was like, look, man, I'm not no weirdo. I'm not no creep. I'm like, I just feeling that the Lord's saying that I need to ask you for a ride. When I told him that, this man crossed his arms and put his head on my window and started crying. And he was like, can you do something for me? I said, yeah. He was like, can you pray for my dad? That's where I'm walking to. He's in a bed dying. And I'm like, yeah, I'll pray for him. So then I asked him the third time, you sure you don't need a ride? Now that I know that he's walking to go see his dying dad. And he said, no, my sister's on her way. At this point, I don't know what to do, so I just get a business card and I give him my number, like, call me if you get anything. So I've already asked multiple times. I go to the next parking lot, which is the Dollar General on 1941, and I pulled it in there and I just grabbed my Bible and I opened it up. And I have the verse written down, but it was where it talks forgiveness of sin. And as soon as I started reading that, I opened it up and it said forgiveness of sin. My phone rang, and he was that guy, and he was like, hey, my sister, she wanted to know if you could come and pray with us over my dad at the house. They sent me the address. I go down there. At this point, I'm driving to Barnesville with tears in my eyes, trying to, what are you doing with me? I don't know how to do this. I don't know what I'm going to say to somebody in the dying bed. And I just read the verse. That man has been sick for a while. He's been in pain. And when we're there, we're praying, I'm reading the verses, and they're saying he's smiling. I couldn't see it, but the wife was there, the daughter, the son, multiple family members. That man went home the next day. He called me. He was like, hey, my dad passed. So I had a lot of those experiences. Same thing down there, and like he said, when you're out of the country, before I came to the Lord, if I had to, and I would travel the country because I knew that people are not what they are in the resort. If you go outside and you see the country for what it is. This whole time I look back now, I'm like, the Lord was just getting me ready for all of this. And that's just in Waimaka, that at that 5,000 foot elevation, there's a problem that we're seeing down there. And I see like, we're at this mountain, you see the little town down there. You can barely see it. Like, what if it was a puddle of water? That puddle of water is Jesus. You're at the mountain, and a lot of the times we get to the edge of the mountain, and right before we jump, because it's so high, we're like, nah, hold on, I'll figure a way out. And we turn around. I'm just telling y'all my personal experience. I got to the edge of that mountain, and I jumped, because I knew that he's going to catch me, regardless of how small that puddle is. So I don't have to know, and we don't have to know where he's taking us on this wild chase, but I know that it's worth it. And it's tough. By no means am I saying it's easy, but believe me, it's tough. I was down there in the second week, was tough. I was questioning myself. I'm here with Mr. Sandler. I got like 2 more and a half to go. I was like, oh man. I was like, it was tough. I started questioning everything. Like, am I doing this for me? Am I doing this because of any other reason besides the Lord? And I talk to my wife every day, and she's doing this and she's doing that. I'm like, man, I was like, what am I doing here? So for about 3 days, I was having a really hard time, and I just kept praying about it every night. And one of those days, we got home early, and I just went to the plaza, and he just gave me this scripture where, love is patient. And I was just like, man, I'm here for the right reason. And after that, the next 2 weeks and a half, it was awesome, man. And I didn't have to worry about where we were going. Besides where we were gonna eat, that's it.
That's true. So, just keep in mind, God doesn't call everybody to be a foreign missionary. Sometimes we go, well, I don't feel called to be a missionary. Christian lawyers, Christian nurses, but to be Christian in that. No direction, no nothing, just go for an adventure. That might be something he's pointing you in. And that's been like, even for me, I can tell you, I've never felt like God's called me to be a foreign missionary. I see it the same way that I'll stand and support military men and women overseas. This is a tough thing to go and do this. This is not used at the end because it's the same thing that happens in these pews every Sunday morning. God is not going to make you take a step. And so a lot of times the hardest part is that first step. And once you take that first step, then the path begins to become clearer and clearer and clearer. And then it's just like, wait a minute, had I not taken that step, I would have not experienced all of this. And so wouldn't it be great if all of us could get past the point of here, we spend so many of you for taking that step. And as a church, we want to commit to you to pray and that the Lord will send you and provide and do what he needs to do. And especially, you're really lucky because you get to hang out with Miss Joanne. And she's special. I bet you get, it's really good. So, and I know